All right, guys, one moment here so I can let YouTube send out notifications to folks, and we will get rolling for this 4-year anniversary episode of Liberty Under Attack Radio, and I guess my official entrance into the alternative media. So stay tuned for just one moment. Cheers. On this very special occasion. And welcome to the first person to join the live stream this evening. Great to have you. I'm guessing it's Jason Booth, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, feel free to drop any questions, comments, or anything of the sort there in the chat, and I'll be sure to address them. And actually, just got another comment on the short video I put out this morning. I try not to swear as much, not that it matters, but I fucking love the feedback and the response. It's really, really inspiring. It really is. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. So today is the 4-year anniversary of the inaugural episode of Liberty Under Attack Radio on the Freedom Phalanx Radio Network. Now, FPR Radio is not around anymore, unfortunately. But regardless, 4 years ago, this was our first live episode on, our first live episode of LUA Radio. I was not prepared at all. Just a few years ago, I was known as the Silent Lion in school, in public indoctrination and such. And a few years afterwards, I would start my own radio show. I was ill prepared for it, and I knew some things. Some of those things are true today. Some of them are not. But regardless, 4 years ago today, at this time, this was the inaugural episode of Liberty Under Attack Radio. So I figured it was time to. I figured it was a good idea to do an episode and just talk to you guys about the last 4 years. Not only obviously I'll talk about my own personal growth, but also talk about how I guess and not only my own personal growth, but also the importance of some very key moments in my life that I think greatly impacted the course of personal freedom. Not saying people can find it themselves, but just I'll get to it regardless. I'll get to it. So to flash back to 4 years ago, I was working at a finance company. It was called Kahuna Payment Solutions, and I was on the phone most of the day doing data entry, things of that nature. But it was the best. Until today, it was the best job that I ever had. And the reason for it was very laid back. The hours that I worked, there was a lot of free time. I could work on a lot of other shit. And and even before that too. Bill Cooper plays a big part of this story. And that was working at the moving company that I worked at. I was a lead packer there for a couple of years. And when you're packing things, you can just put in earbuds and listen to whatever. So I listened to like 2,000 hours of Bill Cooper podcasts. So that was kind of the origination of all of this. And it was the recognition that at that time that I knew that if I wanted to hear another radio show host or another podcaster discussing the important things that Bill did, I'd have to do it myself. So I started Liberty Under Attack Radio, and again, I was ill-prepared to do so for a lot of reasons. I should not have been doing it. Looking back on it 4 years ago, but, it was an important part of the foundation of this podcast and radio show and everything that was to follow. So I got in contact with a radio show host named Robert Bruce, pseudonym, obviously. Robert the Bruce from Braveheart, for those who don't know. But anyway, I got in contact with him, and I did a couple really bad episodes before actually doing the first official live one. And was like, I want to do some live broadcasting, man. What do I need? And he got me a hookup for like $50 or less. So it worked out well. It worked out really, really, really well. And so I went live on FPR Radio at this time this evening, 4 years ago. So at this time, 4 years ago, we were talking about 9/11 and the war on terror. And in the vein of Bill Cooper, it was conspiratorial. There was no anarchism to be found. It was basically just talking about 9/11 being a false flag and really just the failures of the national security state in preventing such an event, and showing how how badly they failed with all the money, all of the resources, that everything that had to go wrong at that time for that event to take place, it happened all at one instant. So that's what we talked about the first episode of Luminary Tech Radio. So, yeah, at that time, I was definitely all about conspiracies. I remember a couple weeks ago, came up on my Facebook memories. I was reading the The Secret Destiny of America by Manly P. Hall. One of the most famous Freemasons, and that was kind of the direction that I saw the podcast going. Was a reincarnation of Bill Cooper's The Hour of the Time. Little did I know, life had different plans for me. Life had different plans. Than a reincarnation of Bill Cooper's Hour of the Time podcast or radio show. Rather, it took a pretty drastic slide. So at that time, when I started, I'd heard of anarchism. I'd been familiar with it, but my stance had always been, I don't trust people as it is. So why the hell would I trust them without a government? Now I understand the flawed reasoning now, but at that time that was my major hang-up, is I don't trust these motherfuckers as it is. Why would I trust them without any government or any ruling class at all? Was kind of my mindset. Again, I understand why I'm wrong now, or why I was wrong then, but at that time that was my major hang-up. So, I had conversations with Kyle Reardon, another synonym, my co-host of the Vonu podcast. I guess I could probably safely say my old co-host of the Vonu podcast. Had a conversation with him and some other folks, and he pointed me in the direction of a guy named Cal Molinet, which you guys should be familiar with him. If you're not, then yeah, you need to be. So I watched a bunch of his, 3 questions videos on YouTube. The 3 questions to anarchy, and I was there. I was an anarchist. It didn't take much beyond that. Didn't take much at all. So I got a bunch of Mises, a bunch of Rothbard books, basically anything I could get my hands on. I got those and I read. I read about the philosophy, the economics, the morality, all of those things. I read about them. Within about 3 or 4 months, I was sold. That's a bad way to put it. That it was sold, because it seems like it was a product. But anyway. I was convinced. I understood and walked through the rationality and logic behind the arguments, whether it's economics, ethics, or whatever. And I was an anarchist. And at that time, let's say July or August of 2015. Yeah, 2015. July, August of 2015. Maybe a month or two after that. And I got it, I got it. But I was like, okay, so we're anarchists. What are we going to do about this? Like, how do we find freedom now? What are the solutions and strategies available to us to do, to be free? And I realized that overall it was very much lacking. It was very much lacking. What was available was very scarce and not easy to find. And what was available was basically just politically saying bullshit. Cheers. I'm not going to drink while I'm doing this. So if you guys have a drink, grab one. Let's have a good time together. But anyways, I noticed that there was a problem. There was this great philosophy of anarchism, of voluntarism, whatever. But there wasn't a whole lot of emphasis on the action itself. Granted, outside of peaceful parenting or secession or whatever, it was very, very much lacking. So I guess late 2015. Yeah, 2015. Sorry, guys. It's a long time. I've got to try to keep this shit straight in my head. But yeah, late 2015, I said, well, what about something like like direct action series? And it's a good idea. I went with it. So for the next starting early January up until late July, I interviewed folks who were doing things, participating in, or I guess, experts in strategies found on the Freedom Umbrella of Direct Action. If you want to find that today, go to libertyinteract.com/FUDA, FUDA. So I interviewed a lot of folks who were doing some really cool things, who actually found freedom for themselves. And it was very, very eye-opening. It really, really was. So after that, it was obviously game over. I guess might have been like late July 2016. I did a couple episodes on Vonu. After I had received the book and digitized it and recorded the audiobook with it with Kyle. And it was kind of game over from there. But I at that time, I still really didn't understand the impact Vonu was going to have on my life. It was a book that I thought was important that I digitized. And I went back to every once in a while. But I didn't realize how important it really was, how important that freedom strategy and philosophy really was. So I guess it might have been late 2016. And mind you, I had tried to get Kyle to be a co-host on LUA Radio for the longest time, but he wouldn't do it. But I said, okay, the Vonu podcast, me and you, let's do it. He's like, I can't say no to that. I just can't. Okay. So we launched the Vonu podcast in January. I guess it might have been late January of 2017. And it was definitely game over from there. For the first, it would have been 14, 15 months. It was all just very, in my opinion, very, very good, informative, detailed podcasts on whatever subject we were covering. They were very, very good, in my humble opinion. And I want to get back to doing that. I really do. I really do. But I guess something really drastic happened. Actually, let me back up before I get to that. So, 2017, or I guess 2018, last year, what was I doing on, this anniversary? It would have been 3 years of LA Radio at that time. Well, that day I'd interviewed a guy named Chef Kimuel Sanders. He lived in Decatur, Illinois, where I lived at that time. And his house he fed the homeless and was subsequently raided by the Bludgies for, operating without a license, selling food without a license. And I went to his house. I really do think this was an important moment in my evolution. And it was going to his house in the hood. I mean, I would say that, with not disparagingly or anything of the nature. I went to his house in the hood. And for a white guy with a bunch of relatively expensive recording equipment, it was stressful to say. It wasn't really stressful, but it was. I didn't know what I was walking into. So I walked up and saw him on the front porch. This big teddy bear looking guy, and walked in. He asked me if I need anything. I said no, I'm good. I got my water. Let's excited, I'm ready to do this. Let's do it. So I sat down and talked to him, and it wasn't a very long interview. It may have been like 10, 11, 12 minutes, something along those lines. But in that moment, within that 11 or within that 10 to 12 minutes, I mean, the state is in the media. The state is shown as this compassionate, caring, and I guess providing entity. Well, Chef Kimuel Sanders saw all of the faults, all of the flaws that were there in Decatur. He saw a lot of homeless people that were not getting fed, so he fed them. And the state came down on him. And I went to his house and I watched him cry. They stole they stole all of his cooking equipment. And within a few weeks after, after he got a little money off a GoFundMe campaign, made $500, which isn't much. I mean, that's he did the charity sort of stuff, but cooking is what it was an agorist. It was purely agorist start to finish for him. So he got his cooking equipment taken away. I imagine the money he got from his GoFundMe went towards more cooking equipment, and he got right back to it. I respect that a lot. I respect that for two reasons. Obviously, first off, he was practicing agorism openly. He knew it was illegal. He faced a raid by the pledges and still continued to do it. And second, he was going to help people no matter what came up against him. That's just the kind of guy he was and the guy he is. He wanted to help people, and he wasn't going to take no for an answer. But looks like Jason Booth here says TVP Facebook page says started on January 17, 2017. So it's been 2 years for TVP as well. I started that about 2 years after LUA. So there's another anniversary there. But I don't think the first episode of TVP was released until maybe a week or two after that. I don't know the exact date for TVP, but LUA was the start of it all. So that's why I'm focusing on that. But anyway, so I interviewed Chef Camille Sanders, did a 3-year anniversary episode featuring Louis B., the comedian from New York, and I think Jason Booth and Jason Paradise are both there, I think. It might have been one other person. If that's you, I apologize for not remembering. But it was a fun episode. It was very spontaneous. Very, very spontaneous. I didn't really know what to expect, but basically I just had a little outline put together. Like I'm going to talk about, important episodes I think people should reference or go back to. Well, I want to do something different today. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I mentioned before I jump forward to today. I've got an outline here, but I guess the point is, yes, as Jason Booth said, and I say Booth because there's 3 Jasons that are important to me, that are really close, and I'm really close with. So Booth, mentioned January 2017 was the start of the TVP Facebook page. Well, yeah, TVP started in 2017, and from that point onward, it's basically been all direct action. It's all been trying to figure out how I'm going to be free, and that strategy has changed quite often. But yeah, so I guess 2018 would be my year of direct action, if I could put it as that. Up until about mid-May, I was working for an electric company. I was an apprentice, and honestly, I didn't mind the work. I really didn't. When I started there, I thought about, instead of moving in with one of my cousin's friends, I thought about moving, where I am right now. 45 minutes away. It's like, an hour commute every day would just be shitty. Like that's not possible. Like it's like I'm driving like 3 hours away. Like that's not possible. So I lived with my cousin's friend, and things were fine for a while, and nothing to do with my cousin's friends or anything like that. It was just the fact that I wanted a lot more out of life than what I was getting at that time. I wanted a lot more out of life. And I hope the stream's holding fine. Just 30 FPS. Those connections holding steady. So I haven't seen anyone say anything in chat about it being choppy or anything like that. But I've been watching a lot of, for hours at a time when I was not at work, watching a bunch of van nomad videos, people traveling and doing all sorts of incredible things. And, I was talking about a lot of these things. I was talking about, strategizing and, talking about the tactics to bring these lifestyle changes into fruition. But I wasn't doing a whole lot of it myself, and it really bugged me. It's like, well, Shane, you've been talking about this for a year and a half. And people can't really see any visible change of what you're doing. Like, yeah, you moved like 45 minutes south to Decatur. Like, that's not really a strategic relocation. It's not like that's not really what Ray was talking about. That's not really the definition of what the tactic or the strategy actually is. So I don't know. I had this idea that I could stay there for like 6 months or a year, and basically just not pursue the electrician apprenticeship at all, the electrician strategy, and just use it as a path towards, paying off my debt, buying a van, converting it, and then hitting the road. Was basically the idea. But yeah, it didn't work out like that. Yeah, it didn't. So Booth says, video is a little choppy, but the audio is good. Fantastic. Nothing's really happening here. You might just miss some facial expressions and such, and hand gestures, so that's not a big deal. So yeah, I quit. I quit and decided to move to Austin, Texas. Before that, I went on, I guess, a two and a half week road trip from Bloomington to Chicago, or I guess actually from Decatur to Chicago, to Delton, Michigan for the Midwest Peace Liberty Fest, down to Ohio to see Ben Stone, and then down to Oklahoma to see Aaron Thompson, former host of the Liberty Lampoon podcast, and then eventually, then down to Waco, Texas to go past the Branch Davidian compound, and then down to the eventual destination of Austin, Texas. So that 2.5 weeks really, I'd say even more than the interview with Chef Kimula Sanders, that the state is here, and not that I needed any real acknowledgement of that or confirmation, but that fucking enraged me. Like this was a good-hearted, compassionate man, and the state just sent a bunch of dudes with guns to his house. Just take his cooking equipment. Like, it's not like he was cooking crystal meth or crack. He was making fucking cheeseburgers. Or whatever. But they raided his house to take his cooking equipment. Again, not to cook crack. To make fucking cheeseburgers. So, I needed a change. That was one of the things. One of the reasons I needed a change. So I went down to Austin, Texas, and went to some meetups, and went out to lunch with Nima Vedati, an ex-host of the Freedom Fiends, and great dude. Yeah, he gave me a lot of great advice for driving for Postmates, and I enjoyed hanging out with him. But the cost of living in Austin is really fucking high, really really high. Like a rent, it's like $400 a month for rent. Oh, not bad at all. But you basically have to pay a rent on top of that for the utilities. I got there at a bad time. But anyway, for me, having $300 a month to live on myself, outside of expenses, just wasn't working. It wasn't working. And here's the next important part of the story, I guess, of my progression to where I am today. And again, if you watched my video earlier, this is not about me. This is not about me, but the important thing, I'll talk about it towards the end of this video, but all the things I've gone through, all the things that made LU what it was, and made TVP what it is today. It's important. It was all part of the process. But anyway, I was in Austin. Kyle and his free mates, they were getting a different place earlier than I expected. I had to find a place to live in Austin within like 2 weeks with bad credit, or I'd be out on my ass. Well, Jason Hensa, if you know him now from the news, Jason Hensa reached out to me and said, "Hey man, I'll be coming through Austin to go down to Acapulco to stay for 6 months. Why don't you come along with me?" And we talked about it for, I guess, it was probably 10 or 15 minutes before I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. Fuck it, I'm young, I don't have any commitments here. Why not just do it? So, I basically just, for the next 2 weeks, worked like 40 or 50 hours a weekend, on temporary jobs that were available, including like the Mach 1, or was it the Mach 1 event or whatever, I guess it would have been late September, mid-September. Anyway, worked some temporary jobs, made some money quick, and went down there. He picked me up in Austin. We stayed the night at a friend's house, Emilio. Good fucking dude. Great dude. And so we made the road trip, didn't fly, drove down to Acapulco, Mexico. And got there. Actually, I'll skip this part, or I'll skip one part of the story. But yeah, we got there and we met up with one of the really great dudes that Jason knew locally. Found a place to live in and moved in that night. Smoked a bunch of dope, and you know it was a great time. You know, it was a great welcome to Acapulco. And then basically went to some local events that went on. Went to John and Lily's quite a bit. Over the course of a month and a half, I was probably there like 20 times. I'd say 15, 20 times. And for those who understand the reference here, you might have seen John Galton in national American news outlets like Washington Post and Daily Beast and things of that nature, because yeah, John was one of the Americans that was killed in Acapulco, I guess last Friday. So, scary as fuck. And hence the guy I went down with was one of the ones that was shot. And if I was still in Mexico, like I was planning on going back for the conferences, there's like a 95% chance I would have been there, because I went there most every time Henza did. So, anyway, I guess what I will say about Acapulco, and I will write up a very in-depth post about this on Claire's Cabal, Claire Wolf's forum, because there are people, her included, are interested in hearing, you know, what goes on there. But overall, I would say, as far as Acapulco, in my month and a half there, and maybe I just got lucky, right? Maybe I just got lucky and didn't get my fucking brains blown out. I don't know. As far as Bonfil, it's not Acapulco proper. It's maybe like 5-10 minutes southward along the beach. The locals were so friendly, so friendly. And it was just beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful. Everyone was nice. Nothing bad ever happened. And, you know, I walked a quarter mile up the road sometimes to go get alcohol. Down to the OXXO, which is open 24 hours. And, you know, I'm not saying I wasn't alert and looking around. But, you know, nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happened. But I don't know, as far as if I'd recommend Acapulco, I think there's a longer discussion that needs to happen there, and more information on what actually transpired in the context of the happenings, so to speak. Not going to speculate in this live stream, but regardless, I think there's more to the story. But anyway, yeah, went down to Acapulco for a month and a half. It was for me. It was a fantastic experience, and I had every intention of going back, and we'll have to see if I go back. I'm not sure, not 100% sure. But it looks like Paradise is here. Sorry, I'm like, no worries, man, no worries at all. Just having some beers and chatting about the past 4 years of Liberty Attack Radio, of which you've been quite a part of. More reasons than one, which I'll certainly get to. But yeah, so from Acapulco to Central, I guess Central is Des Moines is Central. Anyway, I don't know where Des Moines is geographically located in Iowa, but flew back to Des Moines, Iowa. Spent about 3 weeks with my parents, and it's a good time. Certainly great. Enjoyed hanging out with him. Went back to Austin, Texas to do some wilderness Vonu. Had full intentions of doing wilderness Vonu in Colorado, but didn't really work out. Decided I wanted to some other gaps of information there that I won't disclose in this live stream. But anyway, patrons know about it. But came back to my own homestead here in Southern Illinois, and out here, peacefully living, and never seen a bludgie drive down this road. Property I've been going to for 20 years is right over there. It abuts to this property. No bludgies, no enforcement, very peaceful. And I can, do the off-grid homesteading stuff. I can still do all the online stuff. As you can see from this live stream, I'm here. I'm not using the Wi-Fi hotspot, by the way, because I only have a few gigs of that a month, so I use that sparingly. But I'm here, and I'm gonna have chickens here very soon. I'm gonna get another kitten. Gonna get a dog, puppy, hopefully here in the near future. Get some chickens, and then here very soon I'll turn up the soil to start my garden. My pretty big garden, which will be the foundation for my permaculture farms. So, if you come and for those who haven't been here the entire time, or for those who've been here the entire time, I mean, it's a hell of a fucking story of how I got from there to here. And there's been a lot of, mental growth in that as well. There really has been. But I think before I go any further, something I did not expect. I really did not expect this, guys. But in addition to fantastic conversations, fantastic interviews, I didn't expect to get real life friends out of this alternative media venture. I did not expect that. But Kid Paradise, Jason Paradise, who's here in the chat right now. This dude commented on one of my videos, like maybe 2015, and I invited him onto a call with Kyle and I in 2015. We started talking a lot. Dude talked to us instead of actually did his job, which I appreciate. That's some sabotage right there, if I've ever seen it. If I've ever seen it. Talked to us about every single night for like 3 or 4 hours, and we got pretty close. And I said, hey, man, you've got a fucking razor. Come ride with us. You're only a few hours away. And brought him down to the ground. And I remember, some of the people I was down there with, so how do you know him? Oh, he's one of my listeners. Yeah, I know him online. You invited him down here. What if he's a mass murderer? And I was like, I wouldn't have invited him down here if I thought there was any inclination of that whatsoever. But now Paradise is just a staple. Is Jason coming? Yeah, he'll be down here tomorrow. Just a genuinely great dude. And I met him through Libertarian Attack Radio. That's such a beautiful thing. And I'm not done yet, by the way. But Paradise is one of my I consider him to be one of my best friends. He only lives a few hours away from me now, and we talk we talk more some weeks than others. But regardless, I mean, he's someone I can always rely on, and I hope he feels the same about me. Anyway, I mean, there's a lot of folks like that, like Jeremy Hengeller, co-host on the Seeds of Liberty podcast, and also I guess just Abolitionist Jay for those on Steemit and such. We were friends on Fascist Book, and we did some interviews and such online. But last year before the MPL Fest, we decided he hit the road as a van nomad, and we decided to meet up before the MPL Fest, camp beforehand with one of our buddies, Chris Grayson. And then we stuck around. We hung out until about a week after. And I consider Jeremy Hengeller to be certainly to be a friend right now. Certainly to be a friend. Such a good dude. We had a lot of great talks, us alone and also with Ben Stone, the Bad Quaker. I mean, it was just, incredible. Incredible. And there's another guy. I'd say, again, John and Lily from Acapulco. I remember the last conversation I ever had with John. I gave him like a 1,000 peso tip, like $50, because he fed me and Henza a lot. Like this a couple times a week, they'd bring out all sorts of meat. It was so good. It was delicious. And when I left, I gave him like, I guess, a $50 tip. I said, you guys deserve more for all that you've done for me and all that you provided, whether it was dabs or whatever. It's like, here's a start. When I come back, I'll get even. I guess that can't happen at this point. Sorry, guys. They were such good fucking people. Seriously, like, out of the people in Acapulco, I'm not gonna toss any other names out there. But John, Lily, and Henzo were the principled people in Acapulco, and that's why I spent all my time with them. They were the ones looking for justice. They were the ones calling out people on their bullshit, their violations of person and property. And this shit happened to them. Anyway, as far as real life friends, I would say that I'd say Cody Wilson is a friend of mine too. I spent like 3 or 4 hours there at Defense Distributed and just rewatched an interview I had with him today, and God damn it, this sucks. Like, he offered to do like weekly live streams like that. Would have been great for LUA. The LUA YouTube channel would have been great for numbers and things like that. But he got fucking set up, in my opinion. He got fucking set up. Or he was just stupid. Which I don't think he was just stupid, considering he knew for a fact what he was up against. But I don't know. I told my dad. I was talking to my dad like a week ago. And I was like this is fucked. So I get my feature interview with Cody Wilson. And dude gets, international manhunt and captured in Taiwan. Which the arrest warrant was before I interviewed him, so I can't really place that on me at all. That was like 4 days before I interviewed him. And then I interview John and Lily. And this shit happens. I mean, it's only two instances, but it sucks. It really does. One more. Fuck, how do you transition from that? I'm kind of just spitballing to you guys. I've got some things I want to talk about, and however it comes out is however it comes out. But anyway, 4-year anniversary of Libertarian Attack Radio. I guess nearing the 2-year anniversary of the Vonu podcast. So what are some positive things that I've contributed or contributed to the alternative media or to just freedom in general? I think there are some, and if you disagree, please let me know in the chat. These are what I perceive to be my contributions to freedom. First off, Vonu, before 2 years ago, even before, like July 2016, when we did those 2 episodes on it, on the during the direct action series of Libertarian Attack Radio, No one had ever heard of Vonu before. Like, even at that time, like, we were just like, it's just something on the direct action series, we'll talk about it. I didn't realize its significance. I just didn't. But today, Vonu it's not well known by any means, but it's known about. Like, people know about it in liberty or libertarian and anarchist circles. People know about it. Tom fucking Woods knows about it because I sent him my book. Like, that's a pretty major thing. Like, Vonu is not just this obscure thing from the 60s and 70s. People know about it now. And I think that's a great feat. I think that is the biggest contribution I could ever make to the alternative media. It's just the fact that people know what Vonu is, or have at least heard of it. But it goes further than that, guys. It goes further than that. There are more van nomads now. I know for a fact that Jeremy Hangeller heard about van nomadism and kind of got the idea from the Vonu podcast. Like, that's huge. That's huge. I know some other folks too. Brandon from Michigan. There are other folks who found out about van nomadism or other Vonu lifestyles because of the podcast and decided to pursue those things. Like, that's huge. Like, there are quite a few folks, and I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Because as I say in my book, the first step to eliminating the market demand for the state is to get people into alternative lifestyles. Because once people live alternative lifestyles and realize it's not easy by any means, but living in the servile society is not easy by any means either. But when you can kind of have that same complication, those same kind of struggles, but be able to live free, that's pretty major. That's pretty major. So yes, getting people out of servile society lifestyles into Vonu lifestyles is the first step. And I don't take responsibility for that by any means, but I think I at least had an impact on it, and that's fantastic to see in the past 4 years. That is incredible to see. Beyond that, there are more second realmers. Why do I say that? Because people wouldn't know about the second realm if it wasn't for Libertarian Tech Radio series called Building the Second Realm. Hell, one of he goes by Josiah Warren on Fascist Book. Obviously, it's a pseudonym, so I'm not giving anything away here. But this dude started. He mines a lot of cryptocurrency. Him and his nephew. They mine a lot of cryptocurrencies. They're doing deep web IRC chats weekly now. They're utilizing this technology. They're living in the digital second realm. And if it wasn't for, I'm not saying I did anything spectacular, but all I did was present #Gore to them, the terrific crypto agorist novella, and they just went on their own. All I had to do was just show them the information, they read the book, and game on. That's all it took. I think that's all I really am, as a facilitator for these sorts of things, and I'm more than happy to be that person. I guess one other positive note here that I'll mention is, actually a few positive notes. I had a Patreon patron reach out to me recently and told me that he's starting his own self-liberational media publication, and he wants me to write an article on Vonu and Rayo. That was huge. Like, this guy is paying me money on Patreon and messaged me on Patreon to say, hey, can you write an article on this for us? I don't know, that's huge. That's huge to me. Something we talked about, I guess, at the end of season 2 of the Vonu podcast, self-liberational media. People are just, out of their own volition, starting their own self-liberational media outlets. So I think that's pretty huge. Last thing I'll mention is Darklands, which is a privacy-focused freelancing marketplace utilizing Bitcoin for payments. You can find that at darklands.net, or I'd recommend going to Facebook, and at Darklands Market. You can find the white paper there and all of that. But there are a lot of things that have, and I might have been rambling this entire time, and I apologize if I have been, but it's just really crazy to look back upon these 4 years and see how much has spawned out of it for whatever reason. It all spawned out of conspiracies and secret societies and 9/11 truth and things like that. It's really, really crazy to look back on the past 4 years because so much has happened. So much has happened. And I think there's a lot more to come. There really is. There really is. So I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Another benefit of the last 4 years is Libertarian Attack Publications. My book, Vonu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation, is available. Just go to libertarianattack.com/Vonu book, and #Agora is also available. Just go to tinyurl.com/Agora Anarchy. So thanks for watching, guys. It's been an honor to have you, and I don't know. Cheers to 4 years. Cheers to 4 years. It's a long time for me. It really, really is. And I'm looking forward to at least another 4 more, if the state doesn't get me before that. A little sarcasm, a little seriousness. I've seen too many people knocked out in just the past couple of years to not take that seriously. So, cheers, guys. LibertarianAttack.com, VonuPodcast.com, and please do check out my book, Vonu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation, on YouTube, or on Amazon, rather. tinyurl.com/selfliberate1, or libertarianattack.com/Vonu book if you want to pay in Bitcoin. And this podcast is definitely a Bitcoin preferred podcast. No shit coins. Let's see here. Cheers. Smoke something. Hey man, Bronson, wish I could. Don't have any on me right now. So I'm just having a few drinks. But thanks to Bronson as well. He's been a great supporter of the podcast and a great supporter of my work. So